Hello, this is Linda Shields, and I welcome you to a very, very special session we're calling Heart to Heart. I'm here with Pastor Steve Murphy at Millbrook United Methodist Church. And as Steve prepares to move forward in his ministry, we're taking this time to share with him how he's impacted our lives at Millbrook. My many thanks to the congregation for submitting your thoughts, your memories, and your questions. So Steve, we're going to go back to the very first time you were here at Millbrook.
All right.
So just a little brief history. When you were assigned to Millbrook, I know you had some emotions and feelings, but as you actually got here, were there a couple of memorable moments during your first service or even your first staff meeting?
I remember that first service coming here. I remember putting as a part of the worship service because I didn't know what the culture of Millbrook was like, and and I was doing this experiment, like as my own little spiritual experiment of wearing the collar. So I remember as a part of the sermon, as a way of introducing myself at the very end of the sermon, putting the collar on. And I always wondered what everybody was thinking about that when I got here. Because
cool.
I didn't see it as a part of the normal culture, and it was kind of my own little spiritual journey that I was experimenting with. So,
and I remember you explaining that very first thing, and it's just so cool. Yeah. It is so cool, and you explain that in depth and why it means so much to you. So, yeah. Well, I remember the first time. I remember your very first sermon. I believe it was the dance.
Yeah.
It was, and I was really enthralled with that, as were everybody in the congregation. What prompted you to do the dance?
It's been a metaphor. The whole idea of the image of the Trinity being this perichoresis, this divine dance is always moving in or closer, and then that love always expanding out. That image of the Trinity has always been something that's meant a lot for me, because I feel like it connects with my notions of like what sanctification is, our participation in God, all of that. And that image of the dance has always been important to me. And so just a way of sharing that and trying to help invite the church to live into that invitation that God makes this invitation for us to join.
Well, I was mesmerized by it. And I was really locked in. And as a speech coach, I'm going, that is really cool. That is so cool. Oh, wow. Well, we're going to turn to some of the things that the congregation wants to tell you and ask you as well. Deborah Johnson shares this, Steve. She says, I remember our grace group experiences that taught us how to live in God's love by sharing our own stories within a compassionate small group. Is this something, she wants to know, you would want to continue at Camp UMC?
Yeah, and actually, my understanding is that camp has these things that are called journey groups, which is, as I'm learning, I haven't gotten there yet, obviously, but that's similar type of model that they're trying to live into. So yes, absolutely, I would encourage this kind of thing. I think it's actually vital to the life of the church in general, right? The sense of how to live a life of following Christ happens most intensely in these intentional groups, where we get to share, how's God speaking to me? How can I help you? How can we help each other hear and respond to the love of God in our lives on a daily basis?
Exactly.
And but I think even more particular, like this season where the whole world's turned upside down with this pandemic and all that, like it is small groups that are going to be absolutely vital for helping the church live into what it is to be the church.
I think that's critically important.
Yeah.
And as I've shared with you, you are really an interactive teacher. And I've had so much wonderful feedback from those who have been in the grace groups, and to be able to share their experiences safely. And I think I love the small groups. So you're going to hear a lot of stories as you move on through this pandemic and the crisis that we're going through here. Liz Gale, has asked, is there a special tradition or ministry or activity from Millbrook you'd like to introduce into your new church, aside from perhaps the grace groups?
I really don't actually know because I need to get to know the community
Right.
first, right? But like one thing that pops in my head, and this is a little bit because of something that's kind of stirring in my spirit right now, as I think of, what we did in Maundy Thursday,
Yes.
where we'd accelerate communion, where we'd have, 10 to 12 of us at a time sitting around a table, and instead of just a normal moment of communion, we would pass the cup and the bread to each other around the table.
It was so
And-
powerful.
Right, and so recently, just this notion of what communion is has kind of been unfolding a little bit more for me lately, and that the sense of God, this is not something that's supposed to be a container, but something that is opened up for
Right.
the world. And so I don't know if that Maundy Thursday will be something that we do at the way we did it here in Millbrook. I would carry it forward or not, because I don't know what's happening there. They may have some beautiful
Exactly.
traditions to live into already, but the experiences I've had here at Millbrook that's helped open me to the reality of how God actually meets us as a means of grace
Right.
through communion, of actually being transformed and experiencing tangibly God's love, and share that with each other in communion. Like, I hope to lead well, but that help be an instrument of that coming alive for people. So whatever it's the Maundy Thursday or not, that's one of the things.
Exactly. Well, I hope you can. You're not going to be surprised that this question comes from Miss Lynn Wiggs, all right? What is the funniest thing that has happened to you during the worship service?
I'm sure there's plenty of things, and there's not a lot that comes to my mind right now. I mean, other than these are more like simple, funny things. Like the times I've in the traditional service, I'd forget my microphone, and I'm
Yes.
already in my stole, in my alb and everything. I'm all geared up, and then watching Mike Freeze's face as I have to sneak out of the sanctuary, and then him not knowing why I'm leaving. And then coming back, so simple things like that. But I also remember, this is not the same, it's a different heart of where Lynn was going with the question, but I do remember, and I was delighted when we did some of the creative things in worship. I remember early on, we got David and Buddy Hall to help bring up a small boat, and we put the boat in the worship space on this platform on the stage area, and it was delightful watching people's faces as they're coming in. We're doing this whole worship series about this fishing series, and talking all the stories of Jesus, in regards to fishing, and it's just fun watching people's faces react to that, and how,
Yes.
but then this curiosity, but then also later how the gospel came alive because we did these kind of things. So.
Exactly.
That's not exactly where Lynn was going, but that's one of the fun
But
things. that come
then
to
we
mind.
had the sets, and I think they were so much fun. As a matter of fact, I remember that very first, the fishing one was the first drama that I did with
That's
you,
right, that's right,
for
that's right.
you,
Yeah.
with Chris.
Yeah.
And funny guy. And then, of course, have done several more, and I have appreciated that so much.
Yeah.
Just tapping into the fun that we've had together and that. From the youth, and I think this is very important, you've been on several youth trips, obviously. What's a really good memory from one of the trips?
One thing that actually stands out, so this is actually not one I went on with them, but this is where I saw just the beauty of how God was at work in the youth group. So it was a time at pilgrimage. There was some, kind of a troubled moment of tension that happened at pilgrimage that one year. But the weekend when they got back, the youth had a worship time and a time of reflection, and I watched a spiritual maturity and a willingness to live into to Christ's way of healing and hope in a way that I was moved by, because they were being authentic with what they felt,
Right.
and wrestled with some of the immoral ways that people were handling things,
Right.
highlighting some of the good, and navigating themselves or how they are being called to respond, and they held on to each other in the midst of all of it.
Wow.
And didn't I mean, it was difficult, right? But it was beautiful watching how they chose to do this together. And it wasn't perfect, but like it was beautiful watching them operate. So that's one of the things that stands out. More recent, this wasn't actually a trip either, but it was a project we did together. I got to participate where the youth, we did this painting thing together, right? They each youth took some paint to create a mix of color that represented them, their gifts, their strengths, and who they are, that Christ called them to be, in their fullness. And then we poured it onto this big giant mirror and made this this piece of art, and that was beautiful for me to watch and be a part of, watching the kids live into that. And hopefully that was something that resonated with them, because it resonated with me watching them participate.
Any way that we can bring out the authenticity in youth and to have them tell the truth as to how they're feeling and what they're feeling. And that's how we can get to them. And again, I have to say that is your gift. I've told you that many, many times. And that is that interaction. I know it changed my life at one point when you did an interactive sermon. I cannot tell you how much it meant to me when you have asked us to really listen to God. And what is God saying to you at this point? And the message was so clear to me. I've only heard the Holy Spirit, a couple of times in my life, but it was so clear. And the message was that you have a higher calling. And I think I shared that with you.
You did. I didn't remember it until you just started saying
yes.
That. That was beautiful, yeah.
It was so precious. And so it's wonderful to see it unfold.
Yeah.
You can't ask God, and what is that, actually? Oh, my goodness. You had your head shaved for St. Baldrick's, and you shared with me a new insight that you had into what cancer victims go through when they lose their hair, particularly women. Can you share a little bit about, the emotions that you felt at that time?
Yeah. I guess it may be just a factor of getting older. Because I used to grow my hair out and donate it all the time and shave my head, I've done it like 4 other times before, even coming to Millbrook. But I guess it's either in this position at Millbrook or my age or the combination of it all. Your own story.
Yes.
Right, with the cancer stuff.
Yes.
And losing the hair. I think of Deanna Clark, Terry Roper, or Martha Sheely, and there's all these names, right? And so I'm connected to these people in a different way than
right.
When I was younger. It was like this off in the distance kind of thing.
Yes.
Those people who have cancer and lose their hair, like it was this out there kind
those
of thing.
People, exactly.
Right. And now there was this experience of these people that I love, right? That I know names of and I've prayed with and shared stories with. And so, and then to hear, in all the different responses, right?
Right.
So having some conversations with some of the people in the church were like, bald, whatever, I'm out here, I don't care,
right.
to the wigs and the hats and all the, stuff. And they're all the beautiful different expressions of it, the whole range, right?
Yes.
And then, when a guy grows his hair out, or at least when I grow my hair out, you become aware of, when you have the same haircut every day all the time,
right?
Like nobody talks about your hair. But when all of a sudden you grow your hair out, all of a sudden, it's a thing, right? So people are, I love your hair, Steve. People were coming up to, I've had people in the church, it's adorable, who come up come to touch my hair. And I'm like, okay, but all of a sudden you become aware of how much this is a part of people's identity. This is a part of people's experience of self-expression.
Exactly.
Right? And then the thing, so I'm having this moment, this hair growing out, and I'm thinking of those, like you and everybody else mentioned, how that might shape your experience when you go through the treatment.
Exactly.
And then all of a sudden, not because it's a style choice you made, right?
That's
it was
right.
something out of your power. Right?
That's right.
Or maybe within your power because you're choosing the road of health, right?
Exactly.
But this is the consequence, you know. I don't know. I just like it. I don't know if it's just my age or just the relationships with folks like you. It became more real and
Right.
it became more alive, so it was just a delight to be able to do that. Well, we won't be able to do that with Katie Hoffler because she is just an image of the quiet Christ.
Yes, she's a quiet Christ.
So
Exactly.
and I find her very inspiring. Her humble, but like genuine seeking to follow Christ. And so her being able to shave our heads together.
Exactly. She just named.
Just that friendship that we share is just significant. So.
I really appreciate you sharing that. It's one of the, when you called me, you know, during my cancer treatment, one of the things that I appreciated most was that you said, I don't have any idea what you're going through. I don't. Can you explain it to me?
Yeah.
And my comment was, I'm somewhere between Twilight Zone and hell.
Yeah, that's right. I remember that.
And it was so perfect.
Yeah.
It was so perfect to be able to actually say that instead of, I'm doing fine, I'm great, I'm strong. You're so strong, Linda. No, I'm not.
Yeah.
And I hated being bald, but you know, because it was part of my identity. So I just thank you for recognizing that.
Yeah, no.
Well, I just want to tell you that you have touched my life in so many ways. You have no idea. I've watched you grow in confidence. I've watched you become an amazing teacher and an amazing counselor. And that is where I've really seen your growth, your ability to truly listen, to empathize. And you do that so well. And there have been so many times as I've walked a very, very long wilderness journey for the past several years, that you have really been there for me. And I really want to thank you for that. And I know that all of you have had the same experience with Steve, that it has been, whether you have been going through wilderness or whether you've been going through joyful times, he has been with you. And we are going to miss you terribly. Thank you for lifting me up in prayer. Thank you for lifting my spirits when I didn't think I had 1 ounce of spirit. Thank you for walking me through the wilderness when you didn't even know it. And I really pray that you and your family and have even greater joy as you go along and hope for a bright future with many, many blessings, Steve, and all things new. So I'm going to close today with Millbrook's verse of the week. And I love this. It is from 2 Corinthians 13, verse 13. The grace of the Lord Jesus Christ, the love of God, and the communion of the Holy Spirit be with all of you. Thank you for being with us today for Heart to Heart.